In the heart of Africa, where the golden savanna stretches endlessly under the blazing sun, there lived a man whose story would echo through generations. A man whose courage defied fear, whose kindness reached even the fiercest of beasts, and whose fate was forever intertwined with that of a lion. His name was Kofi, a humble ranger, a protector of the land. Kofi had spent his life among the whispers of the wind and the roars of the wild. To him, nature was not just a place, it was a living entity, a force to be respected and protected. But one fateful day, his life changed forever. It began as a simple patrol, a walk through the wilderness he knew so well. But what he found that day would test his courage in ways he had never imagined. A lion, trapped, wounded, and desperate, a beast feared by many. Yet in that moment, vulnerable. Kofi faced a choice: to walk away, as any sane man would, or to risk his life for a creature that could easily take his own. What will Kofi decide next? Could his choice lead to an unexpected twist? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. The African sun blazed mercilessly over the golden plains, casting long shadows over the vast savanna. Birds of prey circled high above, scanning the landscape for signs of weakness among the animals below. The air carried the scent of dry earth, crushed grass, and distant rain. In the heart of this wilderness, a man named Kofi trudged through the rugged terrain. He was a tall, well-built man with dark, weathered skin, hardened by years of working under the unrelenting sun. His village lay on the outskirts of the reserve, where he worked as a ranger and protector of the land. Though he had little in terms of material wealth, his spirit was rich with wisdom, kindness, and an unwavering connection to nature. This was not an ordinary day for Kofi. He had ventured deeper than usual into the wild, following an unsettling sound, a series of deep, guttural roars mixed with cries of distress. It was the kind of sound that sent shivers down a man's spine. The sound of an animal in pain. As he moved carefully through the tall grass, he suddenly stopped. Before him, tangled in a cruel snare of barbed wire, lay a magnificent lion. Its powerful body was twisted in pain, its golden mane drenched in sweat and blood. The beast thrashed and growled, its amber eyes burning with fear and rage. Kofi's heart pounded. A trapped lion was more dangerous than a free one. It was in pain, confused, and unpredictable. One wrong move, and he could become its next victim. Yet, as he stared into the creature's eyes, he saw something beyond the fury. He saw desperation. He knew who was responsible for this. Poachers often set traps along the borders of the reserve, hoping to catch smaller game. But sometimes, their cruel snares ensnared creatures far greater than they had intended. Kofi sighed, gripping the machete on his hip. He had two choices: walk away and let nature take its course, or risk his own life to free the king of the jungle. He made his decision. Carefully, he approached, speaking in a soft, rhythmic tone, a mixture of Swahili and his native dialect. It was not meant for the lion to understand the words, but rather to sense the calm in his voice. "Shush, you are strong, my brother," he whispered. "I will not hurt you." The lion's ears twitched. It bared its teeth but did not lunge. Perhaps it, too, understood that it needed help. Kofi pulled a small pouch of herbs from his belt. He crushed a few leaves between his fingers, releasing a pungent, calming scent. He tossed them near the lion's face, allowing the aroma to mix with the air. It was an old trick, taught to him by the elders. Certain plants could soothe even the wildest of beasts. The lion's breathing slowed slightly. Taking this as his chance, Kofi circled around the creature. The barbed wire was wrapped tightly around its front leg and part of its torso. Blood seeped from fresh wounds where the sharp metal had dug into its flesh. Kofi reached into his bag and pulled out a pair of wire cutters. He would have to move quickly. The first snap of the wire might startle the lion, and he had no guarantee it wouldn't attack in panic. Steady, just a little longer. With a deep breath, he pressed the cutters against the first coil of wire and squeezed. Snap! The lion roared and jerked violently. Kofi stumbled backward, his heart racing. The beast thrashed, but the trap was loosening. Again, he moved forward, cutting another section. This time, the lion only flinched. It was exhausted. Its strength was draining with every second it remained trapped. One by one, Kofi severed the wires, his hands moving with the precision of a surgeon. Finally, with the last piece of barbed wire removed, The lion lay still, panting heavily. For a moment, neither of them moved. The silence between man and beast was thick with tension. Then, slowly, the lion pushed itself up onto its feet. It tested its wounded leg, wincing slightly but managing to stand. Its golden eyes locked onto Kofi's. Kofi felt his breath catch. Was this gratitude or a moment of decision before an attack? The lion took one step toward him. Then another. Kofi remained still, his pulse drumming in his ears. Then, to his utter disbelief, the lion let out a deep rumbling sound, not a growl, but something softer. It turned its head slightly, as if studying him, and then, just like that, it turned and limped off into the wild, disappearing into the golden grass. Kofi exhaled, realizing he had been holding his breath. He had done something that few would have dared to do, and he had lived to tell the tale. But what he did not know, what no one could have predicted, was that this single act of kindness would change everything. Days passed, and the story of Kofi's bravery spread through his village. Some called him foolish for risking his life, while others saw him as a man blessed by the spirits of the wild. Kofi himself thought little of it. He had done what was right. Life continued as usual, though something felt different. When Kofi patrolled the land, he couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching him. It wasn't fear that gripped him, but a strange sense of presence, something just beyond his perception. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, Kofi sat outside his small hut, sharpening his machete. The air was thick with the sounds of the wild, the distant calls of hyenas, the rustling of the wind through dry grass, and the occasional hoot of an owl. Then, the village dogs began barking. At first, it was the usual growling and yipping at the shadows. But then their tone changed. Their barks became frantic, fearful. Kofi stood, his grip tightening around his blade. Something was approaching. The villagers stepped out of their huts, murmuring in confusion. Torches were lit, casting flickering light across the dirt paths. The children clung to their mothers, and the elders squinted into the darkness. Then, from the tall grass at the edge of the village, a shadow emerged. A massive, golden figure stepped forward, its powerful body illuminated by the glow of the torches. A lion. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some backed away, others clutched their weapons. Kofi's breath hitched. He knew those eyes. It was the same lion, the one he had freed. But why had it come here? The beast stood tall, unbothered by the humans who now whispered in panic. It did not growl, did not bare its teeth. It simply stared. Kofi, an elder's voice trembled. What have you done? Kofi took a slow step forward, his heart pounding. The lion's eyes followed his every move. Somewhere deep in his soul, Kofi felt an understanding pass between them. This was not a predator looking for food. This was something else entirely. He took another step. The lion let out a low, rumbling sound, not a threat, but a call. And then, from behind the great beast, movement stirred in the grass. Two more lions appeared. A small pride. Panic surged through the villagers. Mothers clutched their children and men raised their spears. Stay back, someone shouted. But Kofi remained still. The first lion, the one he had freed, turned its head slightly and let out a deep, resonant roar. The other lions hesitated but did not advance. Kofi did the only thing he could think of. He knelt, a sign of submission, not to the lion as a ruler, but as an equal, as a friend. The beast's ears flicked. Its muscles relaxed slightly. It took one step closer. And then, as suddenly as it had come, the lion turned and, with a powerful leap, disappeared back into the darkness. The other lions followed, vanishing into the night. Silence hung in the air. Kofi rose slowly. His people stared at him in shock. In awe. The lion, one elder murmured. It has chosen you. Kofi had no words. He only knew one thing. This was not the end of their story. This was only the beginning. The encounter with the lions left the village in an eerie mix of awe and fear. The elders whispered among themselves, debating whether Kofi had been blessed or cursed. Some believed that he had formed a spiritual bond with the beast, while others warned that wild animals could never be trusted. Kofi, however, felt something different, a deep, unspoken understanding between himself and the lion he had saved. Days turned into weeks, and though the lion did not return to the village, its presence was felt. Villagers reported sightings of the great beast patrolling the outskirts. watching from a distance but never attacking. The livestock remained untouched, and the usual threats from hyenas and leopards seemed to dwindle. It was as if the lion was protecting them. But not everyone saw it that way. One night, a group of armed men arrived at the village, poachers. They had heard rumors of a great lion, one that roamed too close to human settlements, one that might be worth a fortune on the black market. Lion bones, teeth, and pelts fetched high prices, and they were determined to claim their prize. They carried rifles, their faces hidden beneath scarves. Their leader, a tall man with a cruel sneer, stepped forward. "We heard you have a special lion here," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Where is it?" The villagers remained silent. Kofi stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. "Leave," he said firmly. "There is no lion for you here." The poacher laughed. "Oh, we know it comes here. We've tracked it. You think you can protect it?" He gestured to his men, who cocked their rifles. "You're a fool if you think an animal is worth dying for." Before Kofi could respond, a sound cut through the night air. A deep, rumbling growl. The ground seemed to vibrate with its intensity. From the shadows, golden eyes emerged. The lion had returned, but it was not alone. An entire pride stepped into the torchlight. 5, 6, 7 lions, their powerful bodies moving like silent ghosts through the grass. They did not roar, did not pounce, but their presence alone was enough to send a shiver of fear down the spines of the poachers. The leader cursed under his breath, gripping his rifle tighter. Then, the great lion, the one Kofi had freed, stepped forward. It let out a deafening roar, a sound so primal, so commanding, that the poachers froze in place. The other lions followed suit, their roars merging into a terrifying symphony of power. The poachers, now visibly shaken, began backing away. "This isn't worth it," one of them muttered. The leader hesitated, then cursed again. "Fine, let's go." Within moments, they disappeared into the darkness. The village was silent. Kofi turned back to the lion, who now stood mere feet away. This time, he did not kneel. He stood tall, meeting the beast's gaze. And then, in a moment that would be told for generations, the lion did something no one expected. It bowed its head, a silent acknowledgement, a bond beyond words. Then, with one last look, it turned and disappeared into the night, leading its pride back into the wild where they belonged. The villagers erupted in cheers, celebrating not just their survival, but the miracle they had witnessed. From that day forward, Kofi was no longer just a man. He was a legend. They called him the lion's brother, the protector of the wild, the man who had earned the respect of the king of beasts. And though he never saw the lion up close again, he always knew, somewhere out there, beyond the tall grass and golden plains, the lion was watching over him. The legend would live on forever.
What do you think about today's story? Do you believe situations like this can happen in real life? If you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exciting stories. See you in the next video.